Hello and welcome to episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. Today is Monday, February 27th. Hope everybody's having a good day so far. It is, in fact, Monday, February 27th. We are a couple days away from March, and we are coming out of a big-time weekend in the world of sports. First couple spring training games in the books. Had games on Friday, games all of Saturday, games all of yesterday. You got games today, throughout the week, throughout the rest of February, and into March. It is an exciting time to be a baseball fan, and a lot going on as well in the hockey and basketball world. And obviously, no news ever stops in the NFL world. Now you're hearing news about Jalen Ramsey potentially getting traded. The Jets quarterback news continues to swirl. A lot going on, a lot to get into today. Knicks are on an absolute hot streak right now. Nets took a tough loss yesterday. And man, I mean, the Nets are frustrating. They're in a tough spot right now. It is bad basketball. I talked about on Friday how I was excited for the 24 games coming up. I was looking forward to seeing what they can do. And I don't want to say I'm regretting that statement, but my statement was really positive, really happy, and I'm kind of retracting that statement now because they've lost two straight coming out of the All-Star break, got absolutely embarrassed on Friday night against Chicago, in Chicago, as Chris Carino put it on the Nets radio show, or on the Nets radio, on WFAN calling the Nets play-by-play. He said it was a shellacking in Chicago, which was the right way to put it. He does a great job, him and Tim Capstraw calling the games. And then yesterday, they take another tough loss. Fall down early, fight back into the game, actually get a lead late in the game, and then Trae Young, 7 seconds left, buzzer beater, game winner. They get the win. Hawks win, Nets lose. They've now lost two straight coming out of the break, and they've got a very tough back-to-back coming up, where tomorrow night they'll host the Bucks, and then they'll be at the Garden against the Knicks. That is two tough games because the Knicks right now are one of the hottest teams, forget in the Eastern Conference, and all the NBA. They're on a 5-game win streak. They got back-to-back wins over the weekend. Big wins for them. They're 6th in the Eastern Conference. They're ready to overtake the Nets. As much as I hate to say that, they are. They're right there. And the Nets gotta turn this thing around because I don't want a scenario where the Nets are just fighting for their playing lives if they continue to play this way. So we got a lot to get into today. Rangers had a nice bounce-back win last night against the Kings, which was much needed. Tough loss in D.C. against the Capitals. Defensively, they weren't good. Mikula had a tough game. But yesterday they bounced back, get a nice win at home against the Kings, and they'll welcome the Flyers at the Garden on Wednesday, which you would expect is a win. Flyers a struggling team, Rangers an opportunity there, and we are all still on Patrick Kane watch as New York Rangers fans, and the Devils actually made a trade, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But as for the topics for today's podcast, obviously coming out of the weekend, a lot to get into. We got to start off with the pitch clock controversy, because already 3 days into spring training, with all these new rules, there is one rule that has got the MLB world kind of split in terms of the pitch clock and the effect and the punishment and the automatic strike, specifically the Red Sox-Braves game on Saturday, which ended on an automatic strike 3. It was a 3-2 count, bottom of the ninth, tie game. I believe it was 6-6. Braves, Red Sox spring training. Batter for the Braves wasn't in the box in time, wasn't set. Automatic strike 3, games ends in a tie. And that has now caused all sorts of issues, controversy. So I'm going to get into it, give you my thoughts on the rule. Does it need to be changed? Is this good? Are the players going to adjust? How is this all going to end up playing out here in the long run once we hit the ground running on March 31st opening day? So we'll get into that. I also want to get to the Devils trading for Timo Meier. Very solid trade for the Devils. Really just a very good right-wing scorer that they are getting. A guy that is top 15 in the National Hockey League right now in goals, having a very good season. And it is a massive 9-player trade with a couple picks involved on both sides as San Jose sells, as they are struggling in the Pacific, and the Devils are right up near the top in the Metropolitan right now, behind the Canes at the number 2 spot in the Metro. So we'll get to that. We'll get to what this means for the Devils. Solid trade for them at the potential of a Devils-Rangers first-round series. So we'll get into that and much, much more. So this is the Bubbs on Sports podcast. And with all that being said, let's get right into it. So over the weekend, obviously, spring training games began Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You had games all weekend. Yankees 3 games, won 2, lost 1. Really good day yesterday. Split squad day. Trevino with a grand slam. Volpe hitting a double, got a single and 2 stolen bases in a row. Clark Schmidt played well. So there was actually a lot of positives to take. Gleyber Torres off to a really good start. He hit a double and a home run. Jason Dominguez with a home run. We're getting a mix of current talent, future talent, all on display over the first couple days of Yankee spring training. There'll be action tonight, 6:35 p.m. Eastern. You can actually get them on Yes Network. First time they'll be on the Yes Network. They were on the Yes app yesterday, so first time we'll be able to get them actually on TV on Yes Network tonight against the Tigers. It'll be a night game in spring training, so it should be good. And definitely looking forward to that and continuing to watch what this Yankee team can do, and a lot of interesting position battles, obviously. Left field, third base, shortstop. If Volpe continues to play the way he's playing, does he get an opportunity on the opening day roster? So a lot of stuff that has to be ironed out with the Yankees, a lot of things that are still going to happen, and a lot of things are really going to start to take place here over the next couple weeks in spring training. But over the weekend, with all the new rules, obviously there's the banning of the shift. You had the bigger bases. A couple of those rules they kept. Obviously, they kept the 9-inning doubleheaders. They had them 7 innings. They switched them last year, and they've stayed that way, which is the right thing to do. They kept the runner on second to start extra innings. But the 3 big rule changes were bigger bases and the banning of the shift. And I think the banning of the shift, we'll get to see that more throughout the year when we look at guys statistically, when we look at batting average and hits and overall more contact-driven batters around the league. Because I think with the shift being banned, I think you should see the batting average go up around the league. And that's obviously the goal. They want more action. You want more contact. You want more base hits, not many home runs, not as much launch angle, not as much home run or bust. They want more contact out of these guys, and that's one of the big reasons for the shift. So I do think we'll get to see more of the shift and how it's actually impacting the game once the regular season starts, and specifically as you get more into the regular season, when you look at the statistical numbers and you look at it statistically, some of the guys that got shifted on a lot last year, how they're benefiting, or if their batting averages are staying the same. And how does that, help or hurt or kind of stay the same with a couple of these different guys? Like a guy I'm really intrigued to see is Anthony Rizzo. How does banning the shift affect Anthony Rizzo? I think he's going to benefit from it. I think he's going to have a much better year this year. I think you're going to see his batting average tick up a little bit more. I'm not saying he's going out there and bat 290, but there's a lot of hits that got taken away. And he got 4-man outfield on him a lot that last year. So I do think the shift's something that you have to see play out. Bigger bases, look, Volpe stealing 2 bases in a row. We know what Volpe can do, but I think you have seen some more steals. It is going to make plays a little bit more interesting. There's going to be a lot more stealing, a lot more action on the base pass. And I think we've already kind of seen that 3 days into spring training. But that's another thing, too, that you have to see develop over the course of the regular season once we obviously hit the ground running opening day, March 31st. But before we even could get to that point, you have all this controversy over the pitch clock. So let me just read to you how it works, and in some of the incidents over the weekend, and I'll get you into get you my thoughts on the pitch clock, whether I like it, don't like it, the early, punishments on the batters where they're obviously not adjusting early on, but how does this affect things moving forward. So 15 seconds with the bases empty, 20 seconds with runners on. Obviously, violations are an automatic ball or a strike. So I believe the batter has to be in the box 8 seconds ready to go, or else it's an automatic strike. And I believe it's the same thing for the pitcher. So basically, you're giving the pitcher, once he has the ball, and you're giving the batter, once the ball is back in the pitcher's glove, you're giving them about 7 seconds to get set up and be in their set position, whether it's the wind-up stride, whatever it is for the pitcher, and whatever the batter's got to do. He's got 7 seconds to do it, because if he's not ready by the 8 to 6 second mark, it's an automatic strike. We saw an automatic strike on Manny Machado, which was, he jokingly said, and then he got a contract extension yesterday it was. We jokingly said about Manny Machado, had an automatic strike on him, and then he jokingly said he's going to start a lot of counts 0-1 this year. But the big one that kind of blew up across the league was Saturday, Braves, Red Sox, bottom of the ninth, 3-2 count, 6-6 game, ends on a strike three called. Obviously, spring training, tie game, they don't go into extras, all that extra stuff. That was the big one that kind of struck the league. Now, it is working in terms of speeding up the game, and that's the whole goal of this. The goal for the MLB is speed up the game, more action in a shorter amount of time so fans can be engaged, watching, ready to go. And I've mentioned this a lot. I'm a huge baseball fan. I score baseball games. I'll sit there, do the scorebook for the Yankee game. I'm into it. First inning, second inning, I'm into it. I might be overreacting to a pitch in the middle of May. I might be. I probably do. But I'm a huge baseball fan. I'll sit there for 4 hours, 4.5 hours. I don't care how long the game is. I'll sit there. If it's a 15-inning game, I'll sit there, score the game, watch the game, be in tune with the game. Not on my phone, not walking around, having on as white noise in the background. But that's what it's made for. For the average baseball fan to have a quicker game, 2.5 hours, not these 3+ hour games, sometimes even hit 4 hours where there's not much action and it's a lot of just standing around. It's a lot of pitcher, throwing balls or batter fouling balls off or the pitcher just taking a lot of time in between pitches and there's not much action in general. That's what they're trying to eliminate. And so far it has shown. I believe over the course of the couple days so far of spring training, it's so weird because I'm talking about this right now and it feels like spring training has been on for 3 weeks already. It's only been 3 days. Like all this pitch clock stuff and all the stuff that has already happened. I mean, it partially could be because the Yankees played 3 games in 2 days, and yesterday they played 18 innings of baseball with the split squad, so it seems like there's a lot more, but it's only been 3 days of spring training. Today's the 4th day of spring training. It feels like spring training, and a lot of it's because of the pitch clock, and usually spring training's not talked about this much, but with the pitch clock, it has been talked about a lot more. But back specifically to the pitch clock here, that's what they're trying to do, speed the game up. And so far, it has worked. I believe the average of the game so far have been like 2 hours and like 37 minutes, which I believe the last time games were that short were dating all the way back to like 1975. It's been a while. It's been a very long time. Games back then, I think even the 1950s, games back then were 2 hours, 20 minutes, 2 hours, 30 minutes. They were short, quick, 9 innings. Get your job done, go home. That was it. That's what baseball's trying to bring back. They don't want these long 3 hours and 45-minute games where there's not much action. It's a lot of just standing around and all that stuff. Now, sometimes the in-game stuff dictates the time. Like, you can have a pitch clock, and a batter could just foul a lot of pitches off, or you could just have long innings where the pitcher's not finding the zone, batter's fouling a lot of pitches off, or there's just a lot of runs scored, or there's not many outs or errors, and the game still could be long. So the pitch clock can obviously only do so much because there still could be long innings. There still could be longer games if there's a lot more runs or there's a lot more just, if the pitcher's not, or if there's a lot more pitching change, all that type of stuff. There could still be these longer games, but consistently you're going to see more 2.5 hour games. Now, the big topic has been, what if a situation that happened in the Red Sox-Braves game on Saturday? And hit me up, comments down below in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts on the pitch clock here? Obviously talking about the new rule. So drop your thoughts in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on the pitch clock? But back to the game again, Saturday was bases loaded, guy gets out on the pitch clock violation, ends in a tie. The topic of the conversation is, what if that happens in a big game? I talked about this on my Bubbs Talking Baseball podcast that I do on Apple Podcasts. I said this yesterday. I said, Yankee-Mets Subway Series, bottom of the ninth, runner on third, Judge is up. If he's not in the box in time and they call strike 3, is that really a way you want to end it? Or vice versa? Pete Alonso's in the box, runner on third, Loaiza's on the mound, 3-2 count, 2 outs, 3-1 game, one swing of the bat ties it. Even better, tie game, bottom of the ninth, Citi Field. Alonso looking to hit any type of ball that finds grass, finds open field, and a runner scores and the game's over. If he's not in the box in time and the game ends, that how you're going to want it to end? World Series Game 7, is that how you're going to want it to end? Those have been a lot of the conversations, and I see both sides of it. I would say that I am on the side of, I do agree, I think, the issue of even just an 0-2 count, and if a guy's not in the box in time, and it's an automatic strike 3 call, and he ends a rally, or bases loaded, 2 outs, and Even if it's a game in the middle of May that in the grand scheme of things might not mean much, it still is tough. It would still be frustrating. It still would be disappointing as a fan to have games or innings or an at-bat end that way. And I do see that side of it. But I also see the side of, look, it's, again, guys are going to make adjustments. And I've said this a lot today. We're 3 days. Today's the 4th day of spring training games. Really the 3rd day. Because Friday there was only, 2 games on. And I think Boston, the Red Sox played like a college team, I think. So really, it's been 3 days. Today's the 3rd day of full day of spring training games. You have to also hope that guys make adjustments. And pitch clock is something to me. Again, it already works. Games are shorter. They're a lot shorter. And I'll tell you what, as a fan, I kind of have to adjust. Because I'm used to pitch being thrown, broadcasters sometimes bringing up a graphic, or, you're kind of just sitting there watching the game, you look around, and another pitch thrown. Now it's kind of like pitch thrown, back to the pitcher, and it's like, you got to be focused. You got to be dialed in as a fan, because they got to, again, it's about, again, the pitch clock is 15 seconds with the bases empty, but really the pitch is being thrown 7-8 seconds after he just threw a pitch. That's not the case in past years. So it is working, but to me, it's going to be time that time's going to it's only going to take time. If we hit the end of spring training and you're still seeing guys strike out, or you're still seeing games end, or at bat start, or whatever it is, because of a pitch clock violation, then there's reason to be concerned. Because then if we enter into the regular season and the same thing that we saw a couple days into spring training is happening in April and happening in May, and we're seeing it periodically throughout the season, that's an issue. Because that just means guys aren't adjusting. And I'm not against the idea of once 8 seconds hits, if the pitcher's ready to throw, no matter what the batter's doing, throw it. If the batter's not looking up, even if the batter has his hand up for time, if it hits 8 seconds, time's off, pitcher can throw. And make the pitcher throw a strike. If he throws a strike and the batter's not looking, then it's a strike. Instead of giving him an automatic strike. That's the part of it. And sometimes you could see, too, a 3-0 count, right? A 3-0 count in a game, if a guy gets an automatic strike called on him, that can completely change the complexion of an at-bat. 3-2 to 3-1, all of a sudden now, all right, now you're one pitch away from being in a 3-2 situation. Now 3-1, you're still probably going to get pitch in your zone. But we've seen over the years, though, it's not necessary. It used to be 3-0 or 3-1. It used to be fastball. Fastball, fastball, fastball. Now, if it's a 3-1 count or it's a 3-0 count, pitchers still throw off speed. That's just how the type of game is these days. But that's the one thing. So, to me, it's time will tell. I'm not against the shorter games. To me, I don't care whether or not the game's 2.5 hours or 4 hours long. I don't care because I love baseball, and I'll sit there and watch baseball. I'll sit there and watch the Yankee game however long it takes. And I'll sit there through rain delays. If the Yankee game starts up, it's a rain delay, I'll come back to it and watch it. I'm not one of those fans that I'm and a lot of people out there too can agree. If you're a big-time baseball fan, I don't really think you care how long it is. Now, some people are glad that they're shorter games, but you were still watching baseball last year and the years prior, even with the longer games. So it's not that I'm against, and I want to make this clear, I'm not really against the whole pitch clock. It's not that I don't like it. They should take it away. I don't mind it. I don't mind the fast pace. I was talking to somebody yesterday. I think the pickoff rule, too, is good. I can't stand this as a fan when guys pick off 2 times in a row. Then they'll throw a pitch, then they'll get it back, then they'll pick off again. And they'll step off. And it's like a minute and a half goes by and there's one pitch into the at-bat and you threw over 3 times and you stepped off once. That, to me, I hate. So I am glad they did that, and I do think this is going to take away that a lot as well, because I don't like when pitchers just keep picking off. I can't stand that. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. I hate it. You want to pick off once, or you want to go over there twice, that's fine. But if the guy's not stealing, or if it's 2 strikes on a batter, just focus on the batter. I hate when it's 2 outs, 2 strikes, and the guy's still picking off. It's like, all you have to do is throw one more strike and you're out of the inning. The guy on first means nothing. Especially when it's a 5-6 run game and it's a blowout. It's the one run at first base is not going to mean anything. It's not. So that I don't like. But I don't mind the pitch clock. What I do, and this to me this is where it's gonna take time, is I don't know, like, come postseason, if just imagine a game ending on a pitch clock violation. Like, that to me, again, 3 days into spring training, guys got to adjust. I get that. But time is going to tell. If we head into April and regular season games are being affected by pitch clock violations, then it starts to be a little bit like, is this really what we want? Is this really what's good for baseball? Especially if you got a really good pitcher like Verlander, Judge, 3-2 count. Do you really want to see it end on a pitch clock violation? Or vice versa? Cole or Rodon versus Lindor or Alonso. Do you really want to see it end on a pitch clock violation? Two top guys at their positions. That to me is the one part where I kind of like, you want to bring a lot more action into the game. That's great. But having this potential endings and stuff and this controversy also isn't that good for the game. So that's my only thing. And my suggestion would be, and Evan Longoria, I think, tweeted out or posted this somewhere on social media, look, once the 8 seconds hits, make the pitcher throw a strike. If it's an 0-2 count and the batter's not looking, throw a strike. And if it goes by him and it's a strike, then boom, he's out, even if he didn't look at it, right? So that could be a suggestion. I know some people talk about this too, like, and I mentioned this yesterday as well, like, obviously we know that in the NHL, they got the overtimes different. During the regular season, it's a 5-minute 3-on-3. Postseason, obviously, it is a 5-minute 3-on-3, and then if it's still tied, you go into shootout, right? We all know. Now, in the postseason for the NHL, it's a whole nother period. So if period 3 ends, if the game's tied, you go into the locker room, intermission, you come back out, first one to score wins. And it could take a couple periods. It's a whole nother period. It's a whole nother 20-minute 5-on-5, right? They changed that. NFL, too, I think they changed as well where, well, number one, you can't tie in the postseason, obviously, but regular season, postseason, they changed rules for the postseason where both teams will get a shot at the ball. Regular season, I think they're still the same rules. So we see that. Could this potentially be something where as the season goes on, is if there's games ending or things like this happening and the fans are upset, players are upset, they're not liking it, could this be something that in the postseason they go back to the old way, no pitch clock, or they go pitch clock but no automatic strike? Automatic ball as well. That's something I could forget. And I don't think we've seen an automatic ball yet. A pitcher not be right. I don't think we've seen that. Which to me, I'm kind of surprised. I thought it would affect the pitchers more than the hitters. Because I'll tell you this. Ohtani is a guy, he takes a lot of time. There was a guy that did a video of timing Ohtani. When he gets the ball, it takes him like 20 seconds to deliver a pitch prior to the pitch clock. I thought pitchers were going to take more time to adjust because a lot of guys, they get the ball, they'll walk around the mound, they'll look at the sign, they'll shake signs off. Sometimes they'll step off or they'll pick off the first. Like, now they don't have that. But it seems to be affecting the hitters more. We've already seen it. So, again, not so much against the games being quicker. Some people don't like the games being fast like this. To me, that's just an adjustment for a fan. Like, if you don't like the games being quick like this or you feel they're too fast, it's just adjusting. Over time, you're going to get used to it probably, most likely. But if you do want to switch in the postseason, look, if you're a diehard baseball fan, you're not going to... If you're a diehard baseball fan, like if you're a Yankee fan and you love the pitch clock, if there is no pitch clock in the postseason, it's a 4-hour game. If you're a true Yankee fan, you'll sit there for 4 hours and watch your team. Doesn't matter. If you're an average baseball fan, you might not. But for the true baseball fans, you will. So that's the thing too as well. But it's interesting. It is. Again, I don't mind the fast games. I don't, because I will admit, and I love baseball, but I will admit, like if I had to choose between like a 2.5-hour game or a 4-hour game, I'd take a 2.5-hour game. Long games can get long, especially when they're 4 hours and it's just a lot of standing around. It's a lot of just either pitcher can't find a zone, a lot of long at bats. If it's 4 hours and the game ends 8-6 and there's a lot of scoring, the 4 hours go by fast. But if it's a 3.5-hour, 4-hour game and it's a 2-1 final with 6 hits, that can get boring. I will admit, I will. I won't disagree. That can get long. That's another thing too. If it's 2.5 hours and there's 3 runs, it's a 2-1 final with 3 hits. It's like, It's just, and then that's also why they implemented the other rules. More action, shorter amount of time. That's what they want. And it's been working. This whole strike thing, that to me, I could definitely see where the frustration's coming from. Like the whole automatic strike. I do. But if guys adjust, you won't see the automatic strike. Now again, like in the middle of a fifth inning, on an 0-0 count, in a game in the middle of July, that in the grand scheme of things won't mean a ton, right? Maybe it's the fourth game of a series, you're looking to just salvage it, or it's the third game and you're looking to salvage it, or go for the sweep, and the game doesn't really mean something in the grand scheme of things, right? Or it's a non-division game. And if in the fifth inning, the 8-hitter comes up and an automatic strikes on him, that's not a problem. But the problem comes when it's ninth inning, late in games, big games, playoff games, and if you get automatic strikes late in the game or whenever, or to end the game. That's the only concern. And again, you can make the adjustments, but you never know when a player might go back to his habit and not be ready in time. We've seen that before. We see guys, you might build up a habit, but there might be a time where you need to take a deep breath and you kind of forget about it, heat of the moment, and you kind of forget about it, and, the outrage that would cause. So that's the only thing. But to the opposite part of it is the opposite part is, like, as a baseball fan, it's February. If you're a baseball fan worried about things that could happen in October, don't rush the season away. That could be the opposite part. It's like it's February. Guys are going to adjust. You would expect guys to adjust. And a lot of the players have said it's an adjustment. It is an adjustment. But you expect them to make the adjustment. And by October, when the big games come around, you would expect the guys to be ready to go for the pitch clock. You would. So I don't think the players, and that's the biggest thing, is I don't think the players hate it. I don't. I will tell you, I think infielders like it because it can get long standing around. If you're standing around and it's the pitcher's just standing there not doing anything, it can get long for an infielder. It can. Then a 110-mile-an-hour ground ball's hit at you and you got to react quickly. It could get tough. So I do think it benefits. Mostly it benefits, I feel like, but there are some things that could definitely hurt. And we've seen that so far. So those are my thoughts on the pitch clock. Drop your comments down below. What are your thoughts on the pitch clock? Do you like it? Are you kind of where I am, where you don't mind the quicker games, but maybe the automatic strikes and the automatic balls are interesting? Do you want to just have the pitcher, when he's ready, just throw it, no matter if the batter's looking or not? How does that end up playing out? But fans said, the MLB, they said what, earlier in the year, they said they wanted more balls in play, more action on the bases, and a better pace of play. The shift, bigger bases, and pitch timer so far have done that, but there is still some controversy on some of the other things as well. So we'll see. Drop your comments down below. Would love to hear from you on the pitch clock, which is really, it's crazy to think, not just one of the bigger topics in baseball right now, but one of the bigger topics in all sports. I mean, it's a pretty big topic right now with the way some of these games are going and some of the pitch clock violations that we've seen. All right, so now we move on here. And again, I'm actually shocked that it's affected the batters more. I thought it'd affect the pitchers more because pitchers, you used to be able to control the game. Now you really can't. And that's why I thought pitchers were going to be affected more. And maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think there's been one situation where a pitcher's got an automatic ball yet. Now, obviously it could happen, and I expect it to happen, but we haven't seen that yet as of right now. Maybe it's happening right now, and I'm not getting anything, but as of right now, I don't think it's happened. So anyway, moving on from a little bit of baseball and a little bit of pitch clock talk, now to a little hockey and the New Jersey Devils striking a big 9-player trade, 3-pick deal with the San Jose Sharks, a guy that his name has been in trade talks for a little while. Last year, this season, as a Ranger fan, we've heard him in trade talks for a little bit, although I think once we got Vladimir Tarasenko, it kind of squashed all the trade conversation. But one of the better goal scorers in the National Hockey League this year, a guy that's 26 years old, playing at a very high level, really in the prime of his career, has been traded to the New Jersey Devils. That is Timo Meier. So the Devils are getting Timo Meier, Timur Ibrahimov. I'm going to botch these names. Scott Harrington, Santeri Hataka, Zachary Emond, and a 2024 fifth-round pick. That's what the Devils are getting. Obviously, Timo Meier is the headliner of that deal. And the San Jose Sharks, who right now are struggling, they are not in a position to really go anywhere. They are fifth, I think they're seventh in the Pacific. When you look at the overall division, they are seventh in the Pacific with 48 points. They're getting a couple young guys, a couple prospects, a couple guys that have already had NHL experience in a first-round pick. So the San Jose Sharks, giving up Timo Meier, along with the four other guys mentioned, and a 2024 fifth-round pick. They're getting a 2023 first-round pick. Shakir Dolan, Nikita Ohituk, I think is that how you pronounce his name? I'm sorry. Andreas Johansson, Fabian Zutterland, a 2024 second-round pick, and a 2024 seventh-round pick. Now, to note some of these things in this deal, it's a conditional. So the 2023 first-round pick that the Sharks are getting and the 2024 second-round pick that the Sharks are getting are conditional. And the San Jose Sharks are retaining 50% of Timo Meier's salary for the 2022-2023 season. Something else to add, the Devils are not going to give Timo Meier a contract extension. We've seen sometimes in previous deals where teams give guys extensions. The Devils won't, and the San Jose Sharks will retain 50%. So really, this is, number one, it's a big trade. A very big trade. Like, when I look at the Rangers trade, and I'll actually get the trade up here for Vladimir Tarasenko, it was not a big trade at all. As a matter of fact, the Rangers gave up, it wasn't much at all what the Rangers gave up. It was a very, very low-cost move that the Rangers had. I have it in my notes somewhere around here. But they didn't give up much. And something that is about this deal is there's a lot. Again, 9 players, 3 picks. 2 of those picks, or 9 players, 4 picks. 3 of those picks are going to San Jose. The 5th-round pick in 2024 is going to the Devils. And 2 of those picks with San Jose, the first in 2023 and the second in 2024, are conditional, so certain things obviously have to be met. But this has been a move that I think we all kind of agree has been in the works for a while. It was funny because the deal went down yesterday, and there was a little while there where it was like, at first we heard some of the basic stuff about the deal, and then we heard a report that, like, it's not official yet, deal's still pending, there's still more things happening. And I'm thinking to myself, as a Ranger fan, I'm like, watch the Devils not pull this off. Like, there'd be a team comes in late, takes Timo Meier, and for a little bit it seemed like that possibly could be the case. But I was probably thinking crazy out of my mind, which I was. They get a deal done. Again, big-time deal. But something that I think we all knew was coming. Look, the San Jose Sharks are 18, 30, and 12. They've got 48 points. As I mentioned, they're second to last in the Pacific. They've been really, really just bad this year. They're entering a rebuild. They're kind of in that stage of had a couple really good pieces over the past couple seasons that are getting up there in age, getting older, time to move on. Timo Meier's a guy, as I mentioned, he is 26. He's kind of in the prime of his career, but he has been around since like 2016. So he is a guy that's been in the league for a little bit. They're currently on a 2-game losing streak, 4-5-1 in their last 10. And this sums it up. They got a goal differential of -44. Really bad team. So you get and this is why I kind of view this deal as like a little bit of a win-win, because you get a Devils team that's contending second in the Metropolitan right now behind the Hurricanes. Obviously, the Rangers behind the Devils. Devils are 39-15-5, 59 games in. They've got 83 points, and they're 7-2-1 in their last 10. They're on a 2-game win streak. They're rolling. They got a goal differential +33. They're cruising, really playing well. 7-2-1, as I mentioned, in the last 10. Goal differential, apologize, go back a step, +51 goal differential. They've been really good this year, 59 games in, and they're 3 points back of the Hurricanes. And there's potential they could still beat out the Hurricanes and get that number 1 spot in the Metropolitan, which really would help, change things in terms of how things end up playing out for the postseason. As it stands right now, the Devils would play the Rangers first round. Rangers being a 6 seed, Devils being the 3 seed. Devils would play the Rangers. Rangers, Devils. Devils would have home ice. That would be a heck of a series. I would love for that series to happen. I'd be pumped up. I want to see a Devils-Rangers series this year, whether it happens first round, second round, conference round, whatever it is. I want to see one. I want to beat the Devils, hate the Devils. But I got to take my fandom away from this. This is a really good deal. And again, a deal that I think we all kind of knew was coming. But in terms of the win-win aspect is, again, the Sharks are, a guy like an Erik Karlsson, another guy that could definitely be on his way out, 32 years old, been with San Jose, for a couple years now, was with Ottawa, moved on. Brent Burns, another guy as well. So they're moving on. They're slowly kind of rebuilding, slowly entering this phase of resetting, moving on from a lot of really solid pieces and starting over. And the Devils, a contending team, still a lot to play for, looking for that number one spot in the Metropolitan, get a much-needed, big-time goal scorer and a guy that they've been looking at here for a little bit. So, in terms of some of it just numbers here, again, 26 years old, been in the league since 2016, 2017. He had 31 goals this year, 21 assists, 52 points total. He's a good goal-scoring winger. He's got the second most goals he's ever scored in his career. Last year, he scored 35 goals. You would assume this year he surpasses that. In 77 games last year, he scored 35 goals, had 41 points. You would assume he passes points and goals. He's got the second most. He probably will pass 66 points, which he had 2018-2019. He needs 14 more points to tie that, 15 obviously to get over that. But you assume 57 games. He's got about 20 games left, 22 games left. You assume 23 games about, because the Devils, I think, are 59 games in. There's potential he scores 9 more goals and hits 40 goals. There is potential. Now, I'd have to go on a little bit of a hot stretch, but there's potential he could reach a 40-goal scorer. He's tied for 14th in hockey this year in goals, so he's a top 15 goal scorer. And anytime you're getting a top 15, top 10, one of your top 6, wingers, that's always a positive thing. It's always a good thing. That's what the Rangers obviously got in Tarasenko, top 6 goal-scoring winger, a guy that when he's out there, we all know he's capable of in terms of his goal-scoring ability, and it just gives the Devils more. It just gives the Devils that much more of a scoring punch. You add that on to guys like Jack Hughes. You add that on to the other pieces they got on their roster. It just gives them more talent. It gives them more points. Gives them more goals. It gives them a whole lot more. It gives them another winger that can score at a very high rate. Top 15 in the National Hockey League, as I mentioned this season, with 31 goals, and you expect that to go up. And he's on a career. He's in the middle of it. You assume he gets 5 more goals. 20 games left. You assume he probably gets 5 more goals. If he does that, he'll have 36 goals. He'll be officially at his career high, which he got last season. You're kind of seeing this upward tick in his goal scoring last 2 years so far, and you're seeing it again this season. To give you the Devils right now, again, Jack Hughes leads the team in points with 74. Goals, he's got 36. Assists, he leads the team in points, 74. Goals, he's got 36, as I mentioned. Doug Hamilton leads the team in assists with 40. And a plus-minus, actually, Thomas Tatar, however you pronounce the name. He leads the team in plus-minus with, I believe it's a plus 36 this season for the New Jersey Devils. They got guys all over the place. I mean, they got Hughes as center. They got good wingers. One of their wingers, obviously, left wing guy, is leading the team in points. Jesper Bratt is a really solid left wing. 56 points this season, 24 goals. They've got pieces. I will tell you this, though. Something that, when I've seen the Devils play this year, and something that I think highly of the Devils is, that's kind of gone under the radar, and I talked about this in the offseason when they signed him, was Vitek Vanacek. He was a guy that they obviously brought in from the Capitals, was an okay, I mean, he was like a okay goaltender for the Capitals. He wasn't anything special. He wasn't this great, dominant, top 5, top 10 goalie in the National Hockey League, like Igor Shesterkin Vezina trophy good. But when you look at his numbers this year, he's top 10, top 5 in some of the major statistical categories. Let me just read you his numbers last year. So last season with the Capitals, he had 49 games started. He went 20-12, 6. He went 20-12-6. Goals allowed per game 2.67, and he had a save percentage of .908. This year, 35 games started. He'll have a lot more games under his belt by the end of the season. He's 25-6-3, better record. Goals allowed per game down at 2.37. and he's got a save percentage of .913. He's got 2 shutouts. He had 4 last season. You would expect him to maybe rack up 1 more shutout, maybe 2, to get to last year's 4 shutouts, which was a career high. But let's look at where his numbers stand this season. He's 27 years old. That's another thing. He just turned 27 in January. He's a guy that potentially the Devils got on a pretty low contract, I believe, in the offseason. This guy's come in and been great. 25-6-12, or 25-6-3. That's tied for 5th in the National Hockey League. His 2.37 goals allowed, 7th. .913 save percentage is tied for 15th, and he's tied for 10th in shutouts with 2. You look at some of the major numbers that we look at goalies and how we grade goalies. Vitek Vanacek is up there in the top of the league with many of those numbers. He has been phenomenal this season. He really has. He's really put together a really nice year, and he put together a really good January where he only allowed 2.07 goals per game. He's put together a really nice season. And we talk all about the goal scoring. We talk about Jack Hughes. We talk about, him putting up 30-plus goals this year. Now adding Timo Meier, another 30-plus goal scorer. But something that's really gone under the radar, and we talked about this last year with the Devils, is the Devils last season lacked goaltending. Between Mackenzie Blackwood and a bunch of other guys that probably aren't even in the league anymore. Between all those different guys, they were terrible. They would have games where they scored 3, 4, 5 goals. And I said this in the offseason when they got Vitek Vanacek. I said there's a chance Devils could definitely improve this year with legit goaltending. You didn't know quite what you were getting because he had a small sample size with the Capitals, but he's been much more consistent, bigger sample size. He's been great. Devils last season didn't have a goaltender and were in a lot of their games. They lost games 6-5, 5-4. They score 4 goals and they still find ways to lose. Give them a goaltender, they got that. And again, goal scoring's been big. Jack Hughes is just skyrocketing performance to, amongst the top of the league has been awesome and a big reason why. Dougie Hamilton, who's looking like a great, obviously, offseason acquisition last year, he's having a big year, leading the team in assists, obviously. All of those things. But the goaltending to me has been the big reason why the Devils are where they are. We knew they could score. We've always known that. But they've always needed the goalie. And this season they've gotten that Vitek Vanacek. Something else to just add on to the Devils in the trade. The Andres Johansson, who the Sharks are getting, is a good, solid, young, physical player that obviously spent a lot of time, some years with the Devils. And Zetterlund's another prospect to keep an eye out for. So that's why I think this is kind of a win-win, because the Devils, again, get a guy that helps them win now, also sets them up potentially for the future, although he's been in the league for a little bit, and they're not committed yet to extending him, but that will be more of an off-season topic. They're also adding another goaltender just to punch more into their goal scoring, and a right winger, which was needed, a winger that can score. At the right spot, obviously, Jack Hughes being a center, Doug Hamilton really good, Jesper Bratt, but he's obviously left wing. You get a right wing guy. Doug Hamilton, obviously defenseman. But in terms of the Sharks, they're getting 3 picks, or they are conditional so they can change, but they're getting 3 picks, and they're getting some young guys that have gotten some NHL ice time already, gotten some guys with some experience, and that phase of where they were to where they are now, they're starting to change. So they got a pretty good return considering. And they've been really, Timo Meier has been on the trade block for really 2 years. Because he started last year's in trade conversations. The deadline of last season, people talked about him being traded, never did. And then again this year. And now he's finally traded. So it's been something that's been in the works for a while. And when you look at Jack Hughes this season, and again, he's been great, but 36 goals, tied for 6th in the National Hockey League, 38 assists, tied for 25th in the National Hockey League, and 74 points, that's tied for 9th in the NHL. I mean, he's had a career year. I mean, it's crazy what he's done this season. 36 goals, that's the 10 more than his previous career high. And he's gotten better every year. Like, when you look at his numbers in terms of his goal scoring, he's gotten better every season. He's gotten better every season in every category. And that's exactly what you want. And we saw this over the past couple of seasons where he's gotten better. His rookie year, 7 goals. Second year, 11 goals. Third year, 26 goals. This season, 36 goals and still more games to be played. Assist, rookie year, 14. Second season, 20. Third year, 30. This year, 38. Got better each year. Points, 21, 31, 56, 74. He's getting better each year, and this year we're seeing his full potential. And his full potential is he's a top player. He's a top 10, top 7 player in the National Hockey League. That's just the reality. He's been great. So, goal-scoring punch for the Devils, add another top-tier goal scorer to their roster as they continue to load up for what should be an interesting postseason run. And as a Ranger fan, hopefully it gets cut short if they got to play the Rangers. But it definitely entertaining times in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area with hockey. It really is. Basketball, not so much. I mean, Knicks are playing well, obviously, and I don't want to, not compliment them. But with the Nets being out of it, to me, it's frustrating. With the two hockey teams being right in the heart of it, a lot to be excited about between the Rangers and the Devils. All right, so now we move on here to the New York Sports Update to close things out here for today. You got 4 games on tonight in the NBA. You got the Sixers, Heat, Hornets, Pistons, Pelicans, Magic, Knicks, Celtics tonight at the Garden. Big one for the Knicks. If the Knicks can win tonight, if you're a Knicks fan, you should be fired up. You should be fired up if the Knicks get the win tonight. As for the NHL, you got a good amount of games on tonight as well. 5 games, as a matter of fact, tonight. Senators, Red Wings, Bruins, Oilers, Canucks, Stars, Golden Knights, Avs, Avalanche, and the Ducks, Blackhawks. And as for college basketball, you got Baylor, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, and number 23, Iowa State. And Kentucky today, they're no longer number 23, Iowa State, but Kentucky today got ranked again. Kentucky with a big win over the weekend, blowout win over Auburn. They got the job done. They got 2 games left now, and it's SEC tournament, and it's March Madness, and they're the 23rd ranked team in the nation. So Kentucky's getting hot at the right time. It's an exciting time to be a Kentucky fan. You're going into the tournament hot. You feel great about that. They're getting hot. They're 29 now. You look at the standings in the SEC, conference record of 11-5, 4-game win streak. They're getting hot. I'll tell you what, I watched that Penn State-Rutgers game last night. How in the world did Penn State blow that game they did? That's a tough loss for Penn State, who's on the bubble. And a big win for Rutgers, who also was on the bubble. So, this week's big in college basketball. Teams put their final touches to their resume, try and get some big wins before their tournament play. And then once tournament play hits, you wait and see. It's always fun to brainstorm potential tournament teams that could make a run in the tournament. Kentucky most likely will get to the March Madness, but I would love for them to win the SEC tournament, although I don't think anybody's going to get past Alabama, and I don't like Alabama. The whole situation going on with Alabama, not going to get into it, I'm sure you know, but it's a terrible situation. Don't like them at all. Never did, but they're good. But Kentucky, they're capable of beating Texas A&M. They showed they can beat Auburn. Arkansas is not obviously what we thought they were, although we'll get them this weekend on the road. Kentucky's really playing like the second-best team right now in the SEC. A couple weeks ago, you couldn't say that. You can now truly say that. And that's really good because they're getting hot at the right time. And we're seeing it. So, a couple good wins for Kentucky. They'll close things out this week against Vanderbilt at home and then on the road against Arkansas on Saturday. So that will do it for the podcast here today. Another good one in the book. Stay tuned. A lot more content coming your way. Knicks tonight. Nets with the night off. They'll be back tomorrow to open up what is a gauntlet Tuesday, Wednesday night where they got a Tuesday night matchup against the Bucks. Second half of back-to-back will be on at MSG against the Knicks. So 2 really tough games for the Nets coming up here. Rangers the night off. They'll be back Wednesday. Isles, Devils as well get the night off. And as I've mentioned, the Knicks will be on tonight. Big game for them against the Celtics at the Garden. A huge game. You can beat the Celtics at home. That would be pretty big for Knicks fans and the Knicks, as they look to extend their 5-game win streak and get their 6th straight win. So that will do it. As always, hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.